Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, bringing you what has become the ever popular Wednesday night with Cam Underwood from State of the U to talk Miami football. And here we are for the next hour to take your comments, your questions on the live chat, as well as I will be running through the comments that you've left here on the various videos of the past several weeks. And we've got some news from Cam as well on the recruiting front. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Just hanging out. So ready to talk about some football while I'm having one eye peeled to the basketball game that just started right now as well. ESPN2 if you want to watch it.
ESPN2, the basketball game. Who are you playing tonight?
Virginia Tech, 12th ranked Virginia Tech, and it's 4-3 Virginia Tech early in the first half.
All right. You can keep us updated on that. We've been on about 30 seconds. We got 29 on the line. Make it 30. So, yeah. So, again, we will run through the recruiting news, some 247 transfer rankings that are out that are pretty favorable for the Canes, and then I'll run through the comments and the questions as well. Of course, spring practice is probably about 6 weeks away, and we'll start to dive into positional battles here in the upcoming weeks. All right, everybody jump on board and give us some comments and questions, but we'll start the conversation, Cam, with what you told me just a few minutes ago, Mr. Chris Bogle. That has got to be the name that is mentioned more. I don't know if it's your experience, but it's certainly mine. Ever since he opened up his recruitment and let it be known that he was making more visits, that connection was made to Miami, and that he would be an amazing get.
Yeah, and, it's Chris Bogle, like I said, goes to Cardinal Gibbons, which is around the corner from where I live. You've heard me say it for a while now. 4-star, 6'4", 210, edge rusher, committed to Alabama in there, 3-4, he'd be an outside linebacker kind of guy. And yeah, Alabama has a bunch of guys committed. They lost their defensive coordinator. There's rumors that their defensive line coach, Craig Kuligowski, is leaving there as well. And yeah, he didn't sign, Bogle that is, during the early signing period, and he's taking visits. And the last visit this upcoming weekend is going to be to Miami. And that is going to be his 6th official visit, but his 2nd to Miami. So I know people are thinking, wait, you only get 5 official visits. There's a new rule in place that you can get 6 if you take a 2nd visit to a school that you've already visited that has gone through a head coaching change. So Chris Bogle visited Miami in December officially. The head coaching change happened after that with Mark retiring and Manny Diaz stepping up and getting that job. So now he is able, through the NCAA rules, to take another official visit to Miami if he so chooses. And reportedly today, he does so choose to do that. So it would be a big get to get a kid of Chris Bogle's caliber to go to Miami. I know a lot of people are very displeased with Bogle just because, if he's from here, he should want to go to Miami and he's playing games and he's a diva. So they say, and things like that. But, you got to follow the visits. It's one of the recruiting rules that I wrote before, and getting him on campus is better than not. So I'm not going to say that it's 100% guaranteed. There, are reports and interviews saying that, Bogle's mom prefers him to go to Alabama. And that might very well be true. So he might come down and think about it and decide to stick with Alabama, even with, I think they have 9 defensive linemen committed in this class, or 8 or something like that. I mean, it's a huge number. But the thing about it is their implementation and usage of them is so varied. You're going to have 0 technique nose tackles. You're going to have 3 technique ends in their 3-4 defense, and then you're going to have outside linebackers who would be your 5 or 7 or rush guys on the outside. And so you can have so many different defensive linemen because technically you're recruiting for 5 positions, not 4. So he could decide to do that, but I think that Manny Diaz getting in-home visit with him previously to secure the visit to Coral Gables is a good thing. And Diaz is pushing the new Miami #TNM, and he's been pretty clear about his vision forward and things of that nature. So we will see what happens with Chris Bogle. I know everybody wants to know about Chris Bogle and what percentage chance and things like that. All I will say is this: if Chris Bogle goes through with this visit, there is a larger chance than there currently is for him to pick Miami. I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm not going to put a chance on it. I'm just saying that there is the potential, then realistic potential, with this visit happening. So we'll see what happens.
74 on the line. We appreciate you joining our Miami segment here with Cam Underwood from State of the U right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Yes, the Chris Bogle news is less than 2 weeks away. Let's see. We're just 1 week away from National Signing Day version number 2. So we're just 1 week away, and we will have hopefully some good information to share by next week. You know, it occurred to me in reading some of the comments and questions, and I will monitor the live chat as well, but I'm looking for some comments and questions to pass along to Cam. So I've run through the various videos that it would be interesting to take a poll of the fan base right now, because this is what I stated in our conversation, I believe last week or the week before, to be the most interesting quarterback battle entering fall camp because of the both talent and inexperience of the 3 players, N'Kosi Perry having the most experience. But between 3 capable quarterbacks, when it comes to skill set, it would be interesting to see who the fans think is going to break out and win this job.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their favorite already. I mean, Miami has now 5 quarterbacks on scholarship. There's N'Kosi Perry, Tate Martell, and Cade Weldon, all redshirt sophomores, all in the same recruiting class. And it was funny, one of our contributors back then wrote an article about because Tate Martell decommitted from Texas A&M, and he was looking around for a new home, and Miami made his like top 8 or 7 or something like that. And our former contributor, he said, no, sticking with Perry and Weldon is the move because those are 2 4-star guys. So don't, mortgage their commitments by chasing a 5-star. And then now, a couple years later, all 3 of them are in the same quarterback room. So just funny how life happens. You got those 3 guys. You have a preferred walk-on. I cannot remember his name right now. Oh, man. Carson Proctor. There it is. He was a JUCO kid, and he was connected with Dan Enos previously at Arkansas, I believe, as a walk-on there. So he's a program guy. And then you got Peyton Matoka, 3-star quarterback out of Houston, who was the co-Houston Offensive Player of the Year for private schools, threw for about 3,800 yards, ran for about 800 on top of that, had almost 50 total touchdowns between throwing and running. And he's going to come in. He's 6'4", 204. He just committed last weekend on his official visit. So those are the 5 guys. And people have their favorites. Some people are like, hey, Matoka is a dual threat guy. He was a second-team All-State track athlete over high jump. So I think he high jumped 6'8", 6'9". So he's an athletic kid, and people think about that. People, like N'Kosi Perry. I'm a N'Kosi Perry fan, but I'm not necessarily rooting for him. I want the best player. But, I mean, there are definite factions already. People want Martell. People want Perry. People want Weldon. Some people say, hey, Proctor's been with Enos previously. We want him. I've even seen people say, hey, Peyton Matoka, let him come in. He could be like Adrian Martinez at Nebraska, really revitalize the program, hit the field day 1, boom. But the big thing is, when spring practice starts in about 6 weeks, the reps on the field are going to dictate that. And then obviously through the summer and then fall camp. So most people, I mean, I'm trying not to root for a specific person just because I need production at the quarterback position. But I know a lot of people are rooting for a specific guy, and we'll see who wins.
Because it's tough to distinguish the 3 in regards to talent and ceiling, because they're all very close coming out of high school. And again, Perry has the significant and substantial playing time against quality competition. Tate Martell does not, and Jaron Williams has basically nothing.
And I'm sorry, I mentioned Carson Proctor, but not Jaron Williams, redshirt freshman, 4-star All-American, who's there also. So if you add Carson Proctor, that would be 6 quarterbacks. But, I don't necessarily think a preferred walk-on is going to beat, 4 4-star and 5-star guys and a pretty decent 3-star, even though he's probably a program developmental player. I apologize. I forgot Jaron Williams. I know that Jaron Williams, so I know you guys in the chat are probably going crazy. People make mistakes. I'm sorry. So you got 5 scholarship guys plus a preferred walk-on.
Yeah, you've got a few names, more than a few roaming around up there. So sometimes they get lost. I do that as well.
Yeah,
we all do.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So I would love to see a number. Maybe you've come across this number, Cam, a number of guys that have gone through the transfer portal and announced that they are moving on to another team. It has to be a long list of guys. It has to be into the hundreds, I think, at this point.
Yeah, no, it has to be a ton. I know 247 Sports put up like a transfer portal thing, where they did like a database to have all the guys who are in there listed and everything. I can't actually find my way to navigate to that right now, but it's more than a couple, but it's just pretty much about the same. I want to say with people transfer, it's maybe a little bit more transferring now because it's so above board. But there were always transfers in college sports. I mean, I know Jeff Goodman and a bunch of other college basketball writers, John Rothstein and a couple other people, they create a list of the transfers for basketball every year, and that's usually 300 or 400. So having a similar number for football with a much larger roster base. I mean, you're talking 13 scholarships on basketball versus 85 on football. Now, I know that there's more basketball D1 teams, but still, I think that the numbers will be in favor of football. Yeah, there's just a lot of guys out there, and Miami has actually gotten a lot of top guys. According to 247's rankings. So what they did, 247 Sports, that is they went back and they ranked all of the transfers like as though they were recruits. So, based upon what they've done, based upon their potential, they put them in order from top to bottom. So like which recruit or which transfer on the market would be a 5-star, which would have the most immediate impact. And Miami actually has done pretty well. Bubba Bolden, who's coming from USC by a junior college. He is the number 4 overall ranked transfer with a grade of 95. Basically, he's going to hit the field right away and play. And so he's behind Jalen Phillips, who Miami might be going after as a outside linebacker, defensive end. And then numbers 2 and 1 were Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields, which duh. You move down from that, and then Tate Martell, one of the quarterbacks, former 5-star, is ranked number 10. Behind him, KJ Osborne, wide receiver, who's from Ypsilanti, Michigan, Detroit stand-up. Originally, he transfers from Buffalo to Miami. He's ranked number 11 overall on the transfer market. Asa Martin from Auburn is number 17 overall, and he's from Auburn to Miami. And then number 50 on the top 50 is Tommy Kennedy from Butler coming to Miami. So yeah, that's 5 guys who've transferred to Miami in the top 50. Of the available transfers. And that's pretty good. I mean, you got number 4 overall, 3 of the top 11, 4 of the top 17, and 5 of the top 50 available transfers coming to Miami. Dude, that's how you bridge the gap of a substandard recruiting class. And we're just going to keep it real. This recruiting class of high school kids only is not Miami caliber. It just is not. There are some standouts. You have Jeremiah Payton, who's already on campus. You already have Jafari Harvey, who's already on campus. Jason Blissett, 4-star defensive tackle coming down from New York City. Brooklyn, I should say. Brooklyn stand up. There are talented players. Keontre Smith from Chaminade, to Corey Couch, also from Chaminade down here in Hollywood. There are talented players, but not enough of them. There's a lot of filler and there's low numbers. So you have to find a way to infuse talent to the roster in a non-traditional way. We've seen that with Coach Larinaga in the basketball program. Speaking of which, basketball is leading 9-8 right now at 12:02 left in the first half. So he's done that because Miami is not a traditional high recruiting power. So you have to get transfers to fill in some of those gaps. Angel Rodriguez, Sheldon McClellan, that happened there. Manny Diaz is doing the same thing right now by getting all of these guys to come in and fill some of those gaps on the recruiting trail, especially for this year. The bump you're probably going to see for a first-year coach happens their first full cycle, which would be the 2020 cycle. But yeah, Miami has worked to add a lot of talent through transfers, even though, you're losing Marquez Ezard, you're losing Lawrence Cager, you're losing Hayden Mahoney. But I mean, if I got to trade those 3 for the 5 we got, look, I wish you the best, but I'm gonna send y'all packing for the talent that we got. I mean, that's just point blank period. But yeah, I think that hopefully Miami has another couple either high school recruits or preferably college transfers up their sleeve. There's a dude from Rutgers who's an offensive guard who's really good. I forget his name. There's Parker Braun, who's from Orlando originally, and he went to Georgia Tech. He was a 2-time All ACC offensive lineman. Hey, you're from Florida. Come on, 2.5, 3 hours down the road, let's go. But I mean, hopefully there's more moves to be made, but the moves that have been made are substantial.
Do you have a DVR, Cam?
Yeah,
you can put the basketball game on DVR and just ignore it and don't even think that it's
Nah, I mean,
live, and then you catch up with it.
Nah, I mean, I'm a multitasker by trade. I mean, obviously, if you've seen me on Twitter, like I live tweet things and live tweet games and whatnot. So I'm just, just looking over out of the corner of my eye a little bit. But, our basketball writers and things are taking care of all the heavy lifting. So I get to be 100% a fan for basketball, which is usually good, but not great this season because it's a little rough for us right now.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, talking up the Canes, of course. So we're in the middle of recruiting, almost at the finish line, and with this transfer portal making big news as well, and Miami making some strides there to supplement the class. And speaking of which, we talked at length last week about Trevon Hill out of Virginia Tech and also Jalen Phillips. Those two guys are rated number 22 and number 3 and have yet to declare a team. And Jalen Phillips, we certainly highlighted his big freshman campaign at UCLA in just a half a season with 5.5 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. Any hopes out of the ordinary that these guys are leaning your way?
I haven't heard anything past what we spoke about, the last time. Like and several other Canes fans would love to have either or both of those guys. One of our contributors, Marshall Thomas, shout out to Marshall. He said last weekend that his weekend was not going to start until Trevon Hill committed to Miami. And he said that last week on Thursday, and obviously nothing's happened. So the joke is he's never going to have a weekend again in his life because who knows, if that's actually going to happen. But, I don't have any intel or anything that I've heard or whispers to outside of blind hope and faith to think that those guys are going to come this way. We'll see what happens really. But I mean, it's like with anything, you have to follow the visits. If they're not taking visits places, then all the social media banter of, JJ Phillips putting up edits and being like, oh yeah, I'm coming to Rolling Loud in Miami, this music festival that just got released. The lineup did. So it's $850 for a VIP ticket. So Jalen Phillips quote tweets the Rolling Loud tweet and he says, well, that's $850 out my pocket. Gotta go. So then a couple Hurricanes players are like, oh yeah, we out there. And people are like, oh my God, he's coming. And I'm like, he could, or he could fly in for a weekend and go watch some hip hop or whatever. So I mean, there's no real substantive reports that I've heard, seen, or read about it. But Manny is looking to add talent any way he can. So I'm not ruling it out until those guys are signed and enrolled elsewhere.
Ashley and JT, thank you very much for reminding everyone that they should smash that like button. So you obviously enjoy the conversation here with Cam just about each and every week. So we've got 101 people on the line at the point that you pointed that out. We now have 158 on the line and about 13 likes. We're up to 32 likes. We can do better than that. So it just helps the YouTube algorithms that nobody can decipher, but it just helps. So smash the like button. Somebody mentions here, Cam, that I don't know if you have a lot of insight into the connection between the poor play along the offensive line and the strength and conditioning coach and the ability there, the capability there, and what we've had in the past.
Yeah, I mean, Gus Felder did yeoman's work here. He was a big personality. He had a Cuban link chain with a fake 45-pound plate on it. You know what I mean? Like, he's an S&C coach. He played left tackle at Penn State back in the day. He's 6'5", 300 something because he's a big dude. You know what I mean? But I mean, I think that he did his best, but there were, some things leaking out. Like, players wanted to get early morning lift in, but the S&C coach wasn't there. If you look at the body composition of some guys, like, it's bulk over speed, but Miami is a speed-based team. So, I mean, if you look at Michael Pinckney, outside linebacker, number 56, he's carrying around a beer gut like me all of a sudden. And he was not that dude. You know what I mean? Like, you can add mass and size, but not be pudgy. You know what I mean? I mean, DJ Dallas, openly one of my favorite Canes, he had that same kind of midsection pudge going on. I mean, yeah, he did add some muscle and everything, but like, I don't necessarily know if their bodies were being optimized 100% the best way. But, in the effort to try to get that going the right way, Miami did change the S&C. I forget his name, David Feely or something like that from Temple. who Manny Diaz was going to keep at Temple when he was the coach there for, 13 days. Immediately, he came back to Miami, called David, and was like, yo, pack your bags, bring your talents down to South Beach. And hopefully we will see development, not just on the offensive line, but all over the team, of just the way that the bodies look and the way that they're able to optimize their skill sets and strength to be successful on the field.
Got Kim Underwood on the line, State of the U. Please join him and the rest of the crew right there. Of course, a little bit later tonight, they will have a recap on the Miami Virginia Tech basketball game. We're talking football right here, and certainly monitoring the live chat for any conversation pieces that you guys would like to hit. I guess I'm going to have to think of one off the top of my head. We just got a whole lot of comments of people talking up the game against the Gators, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And predictions there, and we will have plenty of time to talk about that in particular. So out of all the guys that we've been talking about for the past few weeks that figure into the recruiting last-minute push, who do you think is the most likely that you get that is going to be an impact player?
So you're talking about high school guys?
Yeah, out of the high school guys, who's the biggest get, but combined with the most likely to sign?
I mean, I think you got to look on defense. It has to be Martin Emerson from Pensacola Pine Forest. He's a safety / striker, that hybrid outside backer safety position. Between him and Jared Harrison Hunt, who is a teammate of assignee Adam El Gamal from Middle Village, New York, Christ the King Regional High School. Defensive tackle, 6'4", 280 something. And I mean, both of those guys are needed. Obviously, there's a need in the secondary, so getting Emerson Jr. will be a big thing. He's 6'2", 185, but could easily probably be 200 pounds and be that kind of in the box, or edge of the box kind of defender. And then Harrison Hunt, he's a big dude at the point of attack. And that's important because Jason Munoz, Miami let him out of his national letter of intent because he signed in December. But with the coaching change, Miami released him from his NLI, and he is going to Syracuse now. Now, the thing about that is Jason Munoz from St. Thomas Aquinas, right here in Fort Lauderdale, is 6'4". He was billed to be 274, but people are like, nah, he's 210. Like, he's maybe 215. And Miami had recruited him as a strong side D end to move inside to defensive tackle. You're not playing anybody's defensive tackle at 215 pounds. Sorry, you're just not. And so there was that. Battled some injuries throughout his high school career, missed his entire junior year, missed half of his senior year, only had like 24 tackles, like 8.5 tackles for loss and 5 sacks, something like that. So, I mean, decent numbers, but I mean, if Miami was recruiting him to be an interior defensive lineman, that just wasn't going to happen. So, he requested after the coaching change, he said, hey, in St. Thomas Aquinas, they have a religion class that you have to take both semesters at Aquinas. So there are no early enrollees from Aquinas. So he's not in college yet. He has not taken anybody's class, so he's not locked in with any school. So, hey, just release me from my NLI. Things have changed. I'm going to go in a separate direction. He took a secret visit to Syracuse last weekend and flipped there. So losing him, I mean, you let him go, honestly. But removing a defensive tackle target or player from the class, which Munoz was previously, you're going to need to replace him. So you got Chigozie Naruka, who's transferring in from UCLA. You have Jalar Holly from Buford, Georgia. You have Jason Blissett from Brooklyn Poly Prep. You add Jared Harrison Hunt to that. That's a 4-man infusion of talent at defensive tackle. And then, like I said, Emerson Jr., he's, like I said, he's a safety. He's around the edge of the box, maybe a little bit of zone coverage, not really a strong man defender. I know I was going back and forth with somebody today who asked first, he said, okay, where's Emerson fit? I said, he's a safety / striker. And the other guy was like, well, no, he should play cornerback and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, in a perfect world, like, yeah, you want a 6'2" cornerback with long arms who's fast, but like, he's not that dude. So I would say those are the two guys that I'm looking at as like the most likely to sign, who could come in and then have an impact on the defense.
Got Cam Underwood on the line here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cam, of course, leading the show there at State of the U. Please join him at SB Nation's site for Miami Athletics. Talking football 1 week away from National Signing Day. Cam, we've got a number of people on here that comment that they would like to see you here on a regular basis. We have made it a fairly regular pit stop for Cam here each and every Wednesday night for I don't know how many consecutive weeks, but
I think we're on like 4 or 5 consecutive weeks. Like the last time I missed was a while. It was like holiday time. Like, come on, guys. Like,
we're not going to make Cam work too much during the holidays.
Exactly. I had family here and everything. I had like, geez, it was like my whole family in the house and everything. Like, I mean, come on. Like, I stepped away for a little bit, but I'm not hiding from you guys.
So, folks, if you want Cam to stay on the line here for much longer, you got to give me some interesting comments and questions. I have scoured the videos as much as possible, and I get the same stuff from everyone. I will throw this out because I've seen this stated by a number of people because of the conversations I had on here, plus some of the social media wars of sorts between the Gators and the Canes, both the players going at it, from what I hear. Do we know anything about that, Cam?
The players talking noise.
Talking noise already.
Of course. I mean, everybody wants to say, they're DBU and everything, and people get bombed in NFL games or college games. The big thing was this: when KJ Osborne committed to Miami, he posted an edit of himself hurdling a defender, and people are like, "Oh yeah, cool." And then you look a little closer, and that is none other than Florida Gators cornerback number 5. Chris Henderson. Chris Henderson, who was committed to Miami, who's from Miami, went to Columbus. He played with Trajan Bandy, who starts from Miami. So that little detail was in there. And that was a University of Miami program, like official athletic department edit. And that's had them, Florida players and fans, in their feelings. Boy, let me tell you, they've been upset. So people have been making all these other kinds of edits of, Malik Rozier on the ground after a sack and some guy standing around him. But it's like, you put a tight end and a running back in a like supposed defensive position, like edit and things like that. But I mean, between that, people are, they're talking noise. Like I've seen, like Chris Henderson came at me, honestly, because I said Josh Jobe got blurred. He got taken up top in the national championship game against Clemson because, Jobe was committed to Miami, flipped to Alabama, blah. So I just said, oh, they took that boy up top, blur. And so Chris Henderson quote tweets my tweet from State of the U talking about, oh, where you play football at? Really, bro? I don't. I write about football. I'm a commentator. I'm a blogger. That's what I do. But like he even slid in my, like literally into my mentions. And I'm like, oh, so like, people are doing that. So there's been plenty of chatter. And, we always talk about this every week every year that I come on and talk about Miami, Florida State, and how those guys played with and against each other, Optimist, middle school, high school, things like that. The ties that bind are very, very strong on both sidelines. It's the same thing with Florida, bro. It just is. You got guys from down here. I mean, famously Brandon Powell with his dead period flip from Miami to Florida and then enrolled at Florida all of a sudden during a dead period where you can't have contact with players, a real face-to-face contact like that. And he spawned the hashtag gotta feed the fam, which is what he put on his flip note as he was literally walking to his first class at UF. You got things like that. Like I said, Chris Henderson, you got Trayvon Grimes, who went to St. Thomas Aquinas, went to Ohio State, transferred down to Florida. You got all kinds of guys who are from recruiting battles in local areas and, that know each other and things like that. Marco Wilson, like went to American Heritage. His brother Quincy Wilson, their father Chad Wilson played at the University of Miami, won a national championship at the University of Miami. But both boys went to Florida for various reasons. I don't need to recount those, but things are always going to be contentious. Things are always going to be tight, and I'm looking forward to the game. It's going to be a good time. So let's go get it.
Well, you can imagine, Cam. I dove in on one of these back and forths because there was a Twitter war about DBU. Who's DBU? Is it Florida or is it Miami? And a Miami fan had posted that there were, I believe, I don't want to get these numbers incorrect, but I think I'm accurate on this, 13 first-round picks from Miami since 1980 at defensive back. and there were only 10 from Florida. So it was a 13-10. I don't know that that necessarily decides anything. But of course, me taking the measured overall approach of college football, I then wanted to look up Texas, LSU, and Ohio State because I would consider those 5 schools off the top of my head. I also looked up USC. So between those 6 schools, I figured we've covered. I can just about guarantee that those are the 6 most prominent schools in producing NFL defensive backs and having great college players at those positions, safety and cornerback, in the last 20 to 30 years. And then I listed my my findings right there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that those are the top schools. Obviously, Florida likes to say that they're DBU because they try to sign 10 DBs every single class. Even guys who necessarily don't even see the field, but yeah, they're great in their estimation and things like that. So, I mean, and the other piece of information that got under the ire of Florida, the program and the fan base, was the University of Miami, or Canes football account, tweeted out, a graphic earlier, and it said, you claim DBU, but you don't have the #1 passing defense in America, which Miami did this last year. It said hashtag couldn't be my team or whatever. It's Trajan Bandy like in a hero pose, like standing over somebody after he laid them out or broken up a pass or something like that. And yeah, I mean, like it's a shot at Florida's identity. They want to claim DBU and things like that. But I mean, I'm taking Miami guys over Florida guys, even in the recent past. You know what I mean? Obviously, yeah, I think that these other schools, I mean, especially like Texas, dude, they put some DBs out. USC, they put some DBs out. You know what I mean? So I think that a lot of teams have a point where they can, claim DBU, but I think that Florida is lower on that list than they want to believe.
With 283 folks on the line, I would think that based on the numbers increased that we've had over the past few weeks, that if all of you guys go out and think, okay, who do I know that loves college football or specifically loves, of course, the Canes? And then you think, hey, if I go on social media, even with a bunch of people that I don't know, and just let them know, hey, we're here every Wednesday night or at whatever point we determine, but it's typically been Wednesday night with Cam, we could probably have 1,000 people on the line here in the next few weeks. That's what I'm guessing. So let your family, your friends, your social media acquaintances know that we're right here talking Miami football just about every Wednesday night. We've got, speaking of, you were mentioning who's going to see the field. Leon's asking about Robert Burns possibly seeing the field this year.
I'll believe it when I see it. Robert Burns, running back, was a 4-star recruit. His claim to fame was the spring of his freshman year in high school at the Nike Spark opening regional at American Heritage High School in Plantation, Florida, around the corner. Well, not too far, but by near where I live. And he's a kid who went to Gulliver Prep, just like Joe Jackson. Robert Burns put on a show that day. He had the single highest Spark rating in the history of Spark ratings to that point. He did everything. I mean, he ran fast, he jumped high, he threw the power ball, he was untouchable in cat and mouse drill, he was sure-handed in passing drills. He did everything. It was a virtuoso performance and again, he's a rising sophomore. He's a current high school freshman, going to be a sophomore. That was a legendary performance. I was blessed and highly favored to have been there that day. People were going around looking at these other older kids who were 4 stars and 5 stars. And even among the, bloggers and analysts, we were like, yo, like it started, kind of going around like, yo, let's go watch this kid. Like, yo, what's going on? Like he's here with the, superstar players and so young. But that was his claim to fame. That was what put him on the map as a potential 5-star recruit. That was what springboarded him to a pretty dominant sophomore year. But Gulliver Prep isn't the greatest high school football team in the aftermath of Sean Taylor back in the late 90s, early 2000. So, I mean, he has some good stats as a sophomore on the strength of that. But past that, he was injured as a junior. He missed the entirety of his junior year. He had 9 carries for 53 yards and 1 kick return for 95 yards as a senior. And he got hit so hard by John Garvin in practice as a freshman, early enrollee at Miami, that he separated his shoulder and redshirted because he couldn't see the field because he was injured. Robert Burns looks the part. If you're lining people up and you look at a 5'10", 225-pound running back, big legs, thick thighs, big calves, like powerfully built but kind of slim, not like super bulky and like sloppy or anything like that, he looks the part of everybody's All-American. I don't know if he can hit. I don't think he's going to see the field. I honestly don't. I think that the best that we saw from him was that one Saturday, Sunday at American Heritage all those years ago. Well, I mean, that was what, 2014, 13, something like that. I mean, it was that long ago now. And yeah, I mean, so that's the kind of background narrative. If I spin that forward, who's he taking snaps away from? Lorenzo Lingard? Nope. Cam Davis, who was breakout and he had 2 long 40, 50-yard touchdowns? Nope. Who's our other running back? DJ Dallas? Nope. Because DJ Dallas can run wildcat, he can run slot, he can run outside, he can run pure running back.
I like DJ.
Right. I mean, I like all three, but I'm saying you're not taking any snaps away from no snaps that matter away from any of those guys to give them to Robert Burns. What has he proven? Nothing. I don't see it. Maybe if he, and I wouldn't even say that he could go to like a Najee Davenport, one back, fullback, running back kind of hybrid, dual position guy, because I don't think he's physical enough for that. I don't see it. I honestly think that whatever year's opening that was, 12, 13, I forget which year, that was the high point for Robert Burns' career. And look, you play for the hometown team, you were signed or committed to them for a long time. I appreciate it. I like it. I love it, whatever. But like real snaps in a game of consequence, like in the fourth quarter on the last drive, trying to come back and win the game against Florida or Florida State or Virginia Tech, and we're handing the ball to number 22, I don't see it. Not at all.
So obviously you want production out of the running back position overall, and it doesn't really matter if you've got the main workhorse guy that gains 1,500 yards or you've got a complementary guys, a number of guys that do different things, especially in the passing game where guys can catch the ball out of the backfield better than others and stay in as a very underappreciated skill to protect the quarterback. But Anthony's asking here on the line, Tony Acosta, I should say, about a running back gaining 1,000 yards in 2019.
I don't see why not. I mean, Miami's had multiple 1,000-yard backs in previous years. You just kind of have to lean into one guy as opposed to others. But I mean, yeah, if I go back and I'm clicking really quickly, cool. So Travis Homer was 15 yards shy of 1,000 this year. So we're basically going to call that 1,000, 985 on the year. Cool, because DJ Dallas had 600 something. But Travis Homer had 966 last year. Pretty much damn near 1,000, but he was backup before Mark Walton got injured, and he almost got to 1,000. The year before that, Mark Walton had 1,100. The year before that, Joe Yearby went just over 1,000. Year before that, Duke Johnson set a record with 1,652. Year before that, Duke Johnson had 920 in 8 games before he broke his leg. 947 Duke Johnson the year before that. So obviously in 4 of the last 6 years, you have not had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 of the last 7 years, you've not had a guy hit the number 1,000. But for all intents and purposes, you've had a 1,000-yard running back. I mean, if you're talking less than 100 yards, like for 7 years, and if you go back further than that, 2011, Lamar Miller had 1,200, almost 1,300. The year before that, Damian Berry had 899. So, I mean, really since 2010, I mean, you've pretty much had a 1,000-yard runner every year, but okay, maybe the actual number's been a little low. Fine. Okay, cool. Could a guy get to 1,000 this year? I don't see why not. I mean, you're gonna ride the hot hand. I mean, you're gonna probably have a guy who is gonna be your starter, and the other guys are gonna rotate in with that. Obviously, we need to see what the offensive line blocking is like. We need to see what the actual implementation of this offense is going to be. But I don't see any reason why not for that.
Yeah, we're talking round numbers. We're talking effectiveness. We're talking about the practicality of the argument and the discussion, not the exact number. Right. I know that I've called certain hitters 300 hitters, and then somebody called me on it because they were hitting 298. Okay, come on. All right.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Understand that. Let's back off. Let's understand the practicality of the conversation. Okay. Daniel Defense is asking about a breakout wide receiver. Who that would be in 2019?
I think that KJ Osborne coming in from Buffalo, because his skill set is really good and he's produced at the college level already, is his name to watch. And it does irk. I don't want to say irk my nerves, but it is just kind of a little bit of a sentimental thing to me. KJ Osborne is going to wear number 82, which was Amon Richards' number before he had to retire. So just a little bit of a like tear kind of thing. But I think that he's going to be a guy, and I've said it so many times on Twitter. Usually before I go home from work on Fridays, the last little 35, 40 minutes, I just do questions on the oh, excuse me.
Take your time, Cam. I can start talking.
I'm good. I'm good.
But
all right, I just had to
do that.
Had a deep chest cough there. Anyway, the last like 40 minutes of work on Fridays, I usually open it up to questions, and people invariably ask me this question, and I invariably answer. Mark Pope. Kid is a 5-star caliber recruit. He single-handedly went and won Miami Southridge a state championship a couple years ago. They ran a play for D. Wiggins, go route up the left sideline, threw the ball. D. Wiggins couldn't get there. They call a timeout. It was like 4th in the ball game, down by like 6 points. And Pope goes to his coach and he says, "Coach, flip me and D and run it again, and I got you." And 74 yards later, Miami Southridge won a state championship. That kid is really good. And I don't think that, especially if you're going to a system where it's going to fit his skills a little bit better, I think Mark Pope is the guy to watch, because I think that he has the athletic ability that few guys in the receiver room have.
Got Cam Underwood on the line. State of the U. We're here just about every Wednesday night. No, we do not have a designated lockdown position. We'll possibly work on that and get that back to you for your scheduling needs. But as we did this morning, I sent out a notification in plenty of time, somewhere around 9 o'clock this morning. So you had plenty of time to plan and be right here with us with 299. Let's go to 300 on the line watching the live show. And I truly believe that if all of you with your social media contacts, people that you know that love Miami football, family and friends and so forth, we could push this to 1,000, I think, in the next few weeks. All right. Luca is asking Cam, and I hope all of you appreciate me firing questions at Cam, him not having the ability to research, look things up, just bam, respond just immediately. Let's understand this skill right here.
Before you do that,
sure.
I read so much stuff. I'm always reading Miami Hurricane stuff. I'm talking to people. I'm writing my own articles and researching. I'm reading other people's work from the Miami Herald, Sun Sentinel, The Athletic, 247 Sports, wherever, I can get it. Like, yeah, I'm not doing in the time research, but like I try to be as encyclopedic as possible. So, yeah, and I like it's a test for my mind. I like to keep my mental acuity up. So yeah, I like the rapid fire.
You probably haven't caught it, but I do call in shows and people ask questions and obviously make comments and want me to come up with all sorts of stuff. And I don't know if they're going to call me and ask about Stanford or North Carolina or Texas or whomever, but I think most people cut me a break, understanding that I'm not going to know who the left tackle is for every school in the country. They cut me a little bit break. It's a little bit more of a broad discussion.
Right.
All right. So along those lines, Luke is asking about the status of Mark Anthony Richards, if we've heard the latest.
Mark Anthony Richards is coming for a visit this weekend to the University of Miami. That is Amon Richards' little brother. He's an all-world athlete, but he wants to play running back. In Miami, he's been recruiting him at running back after first starting to recruit him as like a safety, striker, outside backer guy. Miami's new running backs coach, Eric Hickson, has been recruiting Mark Anthony Richards specifically as a running back for a few years, even back to his time at Akron and then Kansas State. So, you're not getting a fake sell like, oh, we got a new guy and we're trying to switch you from defense to offense. Like you bring in a coach who has been recruiting this guy specifically as a running back for years. In my gut, I do not think that Mark Anthony Richards is coming to Miami. I just don't. I think it's between probably like a Penn State, Auburn, maybe Florida. I think if he was going to pick Miami, he already would have. That's just my gut feeling personally. And I've talked to some other people who share that same viewpoint. But, you're going to get him on campus and stranger things have happened. I can speak with 100% clarity because I've known this kid for a long time. Tracy Howard was going to Florida. 100%. I guarantee you. And he took that visit the last weekend before signing day, and he came to Miami. Stranger things have happened. So, and like I said, I know Tracy. I know his mom. You know, I know his family. Like he was going there, and then things changed. So, you know, while my gut says that Mark Anthony Richards is not coming to Miami, a strong visit this weekend, and something might change. But as we sit here right now, it's probably between, like I said, Penn State, Auburn, Florida, Miami in the mix too, and maybe can make a move, but we'll see.
All right, Kim Underwood, State of the U, talking up Miami football. So jump over to stateoftheu.com if you love Miami athletics. Of course, if you just love football, then you keep it right here, as well as join Cam and the crew at State of the U as they break it down much further than we can right here. And again, I think if you guys get the word out, we can get 1,000 on the line. We're at 304, and I mean in future weeks. All right, with the addition of Bolden, Alex is asking about the balance of playing time between Bolden, Amari Carter, and Gervin Hall.
I mean, situational, make it work. I mean, those are your three safeties. It's like years ago, Miami had Rayshawn Jenkins, Deion Bush, and Jamal Carter. Yeah, those three guys. Those are three NFL players, and I said it then. But Miami insisted on playing Nantambo Akil Fentress and AJ Highsmith at safety. And I'm like, dude, you got three NFL players. That should be the core rotation. That's the same thing this year. Bolden, Hall, and Carter. That should be the core rotation at safety. I don't necessarily care right now who starts or anything, or like, you know, if you split the snaps 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 between those guys, fine. But yeah, I mean, that needs to be the core of the safety rotation. Obviously, eligible. Well, no, all of those guys are eligible, and then injuries notwithstanding, you know, as long as those guys are healthy. But yeah, I mean, we can sit here and try to parse out who's going to have more snaps or whatever. But those are three NFL caliber guys down the line. So as long as that is the key core of the safety rotation. And again, I don't want to see Robert Knowles out there. That is Nantambo Akil Fentress again. That is AJ Highsmith again. Like, you don't have the range. And I mean, yeah, you don't got the juice. So we got guys who are better and going to be better. So play the guys who are better. So again, you know, as long as those guys are the core of the safety rotation, the actual snap breakdown really doesn't make me that big of a difference. And when they start making plays, that'll dictate who has more snaps.
Got Cam Underwood on the line, of course, State of the U. And Cam joins us on a regular basis here talking Miami football. If you love college football top to bottom, all these schools and many, many more, we talk college football. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So please help us out and get the word out. Tony is concerned with the kicking game. I don't know if that's specific to the punt game, the kick game, in regards to field goal kicking, but your thoughts this early stage in the offseason.
I mean, Bubba Baxa has a big leg. You know, he was a freshman last year. It wasn't like 100% lockdown, but if I go back on the stats, Bubba Baxa was 9 for 12 on field goals, 45 for 46 on extra points. That's not terrible. And hopefully he can continue to develop further. Obviously, a new special teams coach, John Patke, the outside linebacker strikers coach, is going to take over special teams coordinator. So hopefully he'll be able to continue to develop that. But making 75% of your kicks is better than not. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen worse performances. So he does have a big leg. He has that weird kind of half turn setup where he goes and he kind of puts his hands in his right hip pocket to get his shoulders squared. So it's like a weird thing, but the ball usually goes through. He's pretty decent on the kickoffs as long as he keeps them in the field of play. So I'm fine with that. Miami is going to get Lewis Headley, Australian native JUCO punter, to come in because Zach Fiegels decided that he's going to transfer elsewhere, which I think is the best for all parties involved. And he's the latest of a Miami legacy, i.e. where their father played at Miami, where the kid did not measure up to the father's, footprints. You know what I mean? Ray Lewis III was not anything like Ray Lewis. Fiegels. I mean, there's, AJ Highsmith, Alonzo Highsmith's kid. There's a lot of those that have kind of flamed out. So, I wish him well in his future endeavors and everything, but getting Lewis Headley in, who's like 25 or 26, he's 6'4", 245, got tattoos everywhere, and this is a punter, by the way. Hopefully that's going to upgrade the punting position as well. So, I mean, I see where your concern lies, but I think that Miami is in a good place to be in a good place on both parts of the kicking game for the actual kickers. And then, in the return game, Miami has speed. You got Jeff Thomas back on the roster. Boom, punt and kickoff returns. DJ Dallas did really well at that also. You got guys like Mark Pope. You got other fast guys on the roster who can, hopefully find some space and do something, with it. Yeah, I think that Miami is going to be in a good spot. And, hopefully, the change in special teams coordinator will be a thing that spurs that forward.
We have topped out at 309 watching us right now on the live stream. Appreciate you joining the live chat. Yeah, good stuff. We're growing by the week here, both talking Miami football and any of the college football that I've got here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So dig in. I have reviewed ACC schedules. Cam and I talked Miami schedule last week. So if you missed that, please, you can catch the individual segment just talking about the schedule.
That was like 1 or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. So that's available. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Mike McDaniel.
Hey, Mike.
Mike McDaniel joined me last week. We broke down all the ACC schedules, top to bottom, 1 through 14. And so those are being released here in the next few days. I think I posted Clemson, Syracuse, and NC State tonight.
Okay.
So those are available for everyone. Harry is concerned in the trenches here. He wants to know who's going to start defensive line, offensive line.
Dude. I mean, like defensive line, Miami's going to be fine. I mean, I'm not worried about that. You're going to have John Garvin. You're going to have Nessa Silvera, probably Chigozie Naruka, and then maybe a Gregory Russo on the defensive line. On offensive line, that's the one that we're going to see what happens. Tommy Kennedy is transferring in as a grad transfer to hopefully be the left tackle, pending if we get any other grad transfers, but we'll see. Navon Donaldson was a freshman All-American a couple years ago, and he's just a road grader at guard. Tried him out at tackle. He wanted to be a tackle, but we found out he's not a tackle. Those two guys probably are going to start. Outside of that, it's going to be whoever wins those jobs. It could be, DJ Scaife. It could be Corey Gaynor. It could be Cleveland Reed. It could be Kyleon Herbert. It could be Zelante Hillary. There are a couple guys who have the ability to be, along that offensive line, but that's the one that really we need to see where things go. But, yeah, defensive line, I mean, if you pick 2 ends and 2 tackles, I think that Miami's starting defensive line will be okay. Honestly, the offensive line, that's where the questions are more. And I mean, I don't have any of those answers for you yet, so we'll see what happens over spring and summer.
This possibly could be our last question of the night. I'll be monitoring the live chat, and if you guys have anything else, I certainly will pass it on. But a number of people asked about the quarterbacks in various forms of questions and comments. I select this one because I think it's the most reasonable question. Based on, again, the lack of playing time for 2 of these 3 main competitors in the competition, and also the talent being very evaluated as being very equal between the 3 in different ways. But this particular person is asking who you believe would be at their best if they all fulfill potential. Ooh. Who would be the best quarterback?
Man, that first of all, that's a good question. Second of all, that really brings into the equation what you think of the individuals, like what your evaluation or thought about their potential is. Man, that's a good one. I mean, we've seen flashes from everybody, like Tate Martell, running and throwing. Obviously, he had that 78-yard touchdown against Rutgers where he's running to his right, chopped his feet up, stuck that foot in the ground, cut back up the middle, was gone. N'Kosi Perry, I remember watching all those highlights from high school. He's setting records and breaking Dante Culpepper's records. You got Jared Williams, who's just pinpoint. I mean, this kid can throw the ball. I mean, it really comes down to, like I said, what the person answering the question thinks about the players that you're asking about. Because if you ask me, you might get a different answer than if you ask somebody else at State of the U, if you ask somebody else from a different site. things of that nature. For me personally, Cam Underwood, if they hit their ceiling for potential, that's tough. I'm going to say Tate Martell just because I've seen him win so much. Like, he's just, undefeated in high school, 3 national championships, all these yardage, all this, stuff. I've seen him do that at that level. And I'm not trying to discount Nkosi or Jaron or anybody else, but at the peak, like if everything were to go perfect and he had perfect 100% development, Tate Martell.
Okay, there you heard it. And you heard how excruciatingly difficult it was for Cam to make the call. So don't be jumping on him 2 or 3 weeks into this season when somebody else has the job and or maybe Martell won the job and had a bad outing or whatever the situation is. Because again, it's impossible for me to evaluate, because even though I watch Miami play all the big games, and I don't mean huge games, I mean just basically the ACC schedule and the decent non-conference games, I watch them play about 9 times a year. I've got a certain evaluation of Nkosi Perry, but I need to see a whole lot more. And then I haven't seen the other 2 guys play meaningful football. Yeah, I saw Tate Martell throw a few passes against Rutgers, but I need to see him play with the bullets flying. You are able to evaluate or risk your reputation on evaluation, Cam, with a little less information, or a lot more information actually, but less eyeball test. I would like to see the guys play.
I would like to see them play also, but it is a speculative question. It is taking projection and potential into account. So, I've been right before, I've been wrong before, but like I said, that was my thought on the question. And like I said, it is a very good question. But again, it takes personal biases into account. It takes, projection and potential into account. But as I sit here on this day, I feel like it'd be Tate Martell. Ask me next week, maybe my mind will change. Who knows? But, I think I'd walk you through my thought process for it. So, we'll see. But it's a good conversation, if nothing else.
I hate to discount our contributors on the live chat, the ones that put their input into that question, but I basically summed up a ton of comments, and it turned out to be my question is what the question turned out to be right there about the quarterback play. Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. So
yeah, that's me. Hey,
All right. I'm going to let everyone know that, as is typically the case, many of you jump on the line 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 50 minutes into the conversation. What you need to do is just let the video process and post, which will take just a few minutes, and then you run back and you gather all the insight and information and conversation we have right here with Cam from State of the U. Cam, anything else? Any parting shots before hopefully we bring you back real soon?
No, I shout out or, RIP to the sports reporters with the parting shots from back in the day, Dick Shapp and all those guys. But right. No, I don't really have too much to say, like I'm over at stateoftheu.com. I run the Twitter account at the State of the U. My personal account is at Underwood Sports. We're writing all kinds of stuff. Baseball preview is up. We have news and notes pretty much every day. There's a game preview for today's basketball game up. So we're doing basketball. We're still looking back at last football season with recaps and the State of the U awards and things like that. I personally have a couple recap things that I need to do because I'm trying to stretch myself a little thin because covering recruiting and all these other things. But there's always recruiting talk with those things. So we just try to be a full service Kane site. We're doing, non-revenue recaps every few days. So, looking at track and field, women's basketball, men's and women's tennis, all the other sports and things like that. So, we're just trying to do a lot and continue to try to push the vanguard forward for what we offer for you at State of the U. So, please click on over there and come fan with us.
Cam, know that both in the live chat and in the comments that have been left to the videos in the past week, there are more pats on the back and more thank yous to you than I can count.
Man, I appreciate it. I don't know what's going on with my nose today. I know you guys hear me getting all nasal and blowing my nose all of a sudden. So I don't know if I'm trying to get sick or whatnot, but, with this little Florida cold spell. But, I enjoy hanging out with you guys. I enjoy talking about the Canes. So I'm really glad that you guys enjoyed as well. So, thank you for being here with us. And, there's more of this where it came from over at State of the U. So like I said, come fan with us.
Awesome. And I'm going to make another push that with 263 on the line and us tapping out around 320, that if you guys spread the word that we can get close to 4 digits here in the next few weeks, talking Miami football as we head toward spring camp. And we'll have a final on the 2019 class, of course, here in 1 week. Cam, we appreciate you stopping by as always.
Yeah, man, Mark, it was a good time. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you the next time.